Morning, please uncover. Dear God, please bestow upon us your blessings at this ceremony gathering of family, friends, and veterans as we assemble for you, our God, and our country. God bless America. God bless the veterans. Amen.
A gentleman was born in 37, um, just passed away a year ago in 2025. And you look at his 87 years on this planet, and you look at what he's given back. And I say this about every generation. When you talk from the greatest generation, when you talk to the men and women that came back from Vietnam, that went back into the community, because I don't want to say live an ordinary life, so I want to make that clear. But lived a life that they didn't have to stand out. They didn't have to run for office. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to prove themselves. They did. But they came back quietly and supported their community and do extraordinary stuff when it came to helping little leagues or volunteering or helping the neighbor or just being that rock in the community. They built this country and continue to build this country. That was James, who went into the Vietnam War in 61 to 63. Payroll clerk, Spec 5 as they called it back then, would be a sergeant today, and served. And then not only did he get out, he went into the reserves and sat in the reserves to 67, and then got out and then went on to the New York State Department of Education and worked there to retire. But interesting life of giving back what he enjoyed, doing his crossword puzzles and the Post and the New York Times. His love for reading about politics. I would have loved to see what he would think about what's going on today. He probably enjoyed the circus. I would have said, don't feed the animals. But you sit there and you look at that and you're like, okay, and his passion for reading, his passion for his family, his passion for horse racing. All the horse racing he loved. I think he was more passionate for horse racing than anything else. So right? Loved his horses. Loved his politics, and he loved his reading, and he loved his jazz music. Again, came back, and his first wife passed away, and Judith, and then his longtime companion, Ruth, and he's had a great life and a remarkable life. And I just want to say it's an honor to stand here to thank such an extraordinary gentleman, and to your grandfather. The love he had for his family, the love for the family, the community he had, being involved in VFW, being involved in a different post. I want to say thank you for letting us start the new year off to talk about an extraordinary man that gave so much back to his community.
This morning. And so, these opportunities are a way to have the community recognize the cost of a free society, of a democracy. And he paid that price by joining into the military, and to our JROTC students here. I think it's always an instrumentally sound way for them to understand this individual sacrifice that people have taken upon their journeys, life journeys, to be able to contribute meaningfully and officially to the American story. So, each of our veterans writes his or her own love story for this nation, and we thank Jim for having done that. So in honor, in memory, in salute to James Brown, I ask that a flag be flown over our nation's capital, and sharing the sentiments of thankfulness for his service and his devotion to our cause of freedom. So, Judy, it's my pleasure to present that flag to you and to share with you my prayer, my hope, that he rests comfortably in the arms of his Creator.
It sounds like Jim was a pretty involved person and dedicated, but and also that he was really dedicated to our country, serving both in the Army and then going into the reserves. And I think the family members should be very proud of him. The portion of the horse racing, I can understand that. That's always something to get your mind off things. But he sounds like a real honorable person. And it's a pleasure for me to be here today. Thank you.
I heard a lot, I learned a lot about Mr. Brown in preparation for today, and a lot has been said. My biggest regret is that I did not have the opportunity to meet him. It sounds as if we shared a lot in common, including a love for politics and a love for jazz music, if I'm hearing correctly. And it sounds as if Mr. Brown lived a life worth living, honoring family and sacrificing for his country.
You know, we like to look at the shiny objects. Our eye gets distracted by those things often. However, the service such as that of Mr. Brown reminds us that keeping our Army running requires a great supporting cast that, put simply, cannot fail at what they do. For without paymasters, for instance, we can't buy bullets, beans, and we can't pay soldiers. Service in these roles requires adhering to the expectations, someone that we often quote in the Army, which is an old German person, Field Marshal Alfred von Schlieffen, who noted that his staff officers and soldiers must work relentlessly, accomplish much, remain in the background, and always seem more than they seem, be more than they seem.
Jim was an amazing soul who is hard to sum up into few words. To start, he served as an Army soldier during the Vietnam War, working in payroll, which makes a lot of sense considering how excelled he was in math and all things finance. I have much gratitude towards his service during that time and the service he continued in the reserves later on, something I know he took pride in, though he did not speak of often. He was very knowledgeable in anything from computer work to being able to read an entire novel in one day, while also remaining humble and caring. Much of his time closer to now, he spent doing what he really loved, including watching all the sports on TV, betting on the horse races, and taking care of his cats that he loved so much. He was a simplistic man with a ton of heart towards others. Jim will be missed very much by myself and family, but I know in my heart that he's still with us.